Welcome to the Global Pulse, a short video series where our experts break down a trending topic in international business and why it matters to you.
President Biden, who's in Bali, Indonesia for the G20 summit, met China's President Xi Jinping. It was their first face-to-face meeting of the Biden presidency and important for a number of reasons. I have a few thoughts to share about this meeting, but I also want to talk briefly about Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's stopover in New Delhi en route to Bali. In many ways, the New Delhi visit is part and parcel of the administration's China policy, and so it makes sense to club them together. First, Bali. US-China relations have been in a downward spiral ever since the Trump administration initiated a trade war with Beijing. Not only was there no reversal once Mr. Biden became president, but he has tightened the screws considerably. The administration has articulated very clearly that they see China as their principal adversary in world affairs. A number of recent policies have targeted China. Possibly the most consequential of these is the prohibition on exports of high-tech equipment, including semiconductor chips, to China. Tensions over Taiwan have also been at a high, and this was especially true in the lead up to the National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party in October. There clearly was a need to turn the temperature down, and the Biden-Xi meeting tried to do just that. To use a phrase coming out of Bali, it tried to ensure that competition does not turn into conflict. The first signs coming out of Bali are quite promising. President Biden has said that he doesn't think an invasion of Taiwan is imminent, and the two countries have agreed to restart climate talks. Of course, no meeting is going to make the contentious issues go away, but even the ability to clearly articulate positions and ensure they are understood could help avoid blundering into some kind of conflict. Perhaps a bigger reason to expect relative calm is that President Xi has the October Party Congress behind him and is secure in a new term, and President Biden's position has possibly been strengthened somewhat by the midterm elections. However, the prohibitions on high-tech exports are likely to remain a major irritant for China. So now over on to New Delhi, where the Treasury Secretary made a stopover. It was not a major newsmaker in India, and not just because Indians had disappointing cricket news to process, having flamed out in the T20 World Cup. But it is useful to look at the news headers of the major papers in India for the message that was received. In addition to the usual profession of friendship that dignitaries make, we had these. US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen nudges India to cut business ties with China, Russia. Janet Yellen pitches for friendshoring with India. US takes friendshoring case to India in push against China. And finally, India can buy as much Russian oil as it wants outside price cap, Yellen says. So quite clearly, the trip was very much a part of the administration's China policy. The idea of friendshoring that Secretary Yellen had floated earlier this year was to avoid excessive reliance on, in her words, sourcing critical goods from countries where we have geopolitical concerns. In practical terms, this policy involves building supply chains that are not excessively reliant on China and increasing trade with geopolitical friends and allies. Supply chains would then be robust to a deterioration in relations with China. In this regard, the statement that India can buy as much Russian oil as it wants outside price cap was a concession. Since the sanctions against Russia went into effect soon after the invasion of Ukraine, the US has been pushing India to join the sanctions. India has demurred in light of its long history of close ties with Russia and also because of the effect this would have on India's economy. It now seems that the US has watered down its demand considerably in order to bolster what is its central priority, the China policy.